Hey, welcome everybody to the Talent and Strategy Show here on the Success is a Choice podcasting network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler. And this episode today is made possible by our friends over at Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. Improve your bottom line, advance your mission. That's what Affinity Recruiting and Consulting can do for you. So thank you to them as partners for this episode today. We're going to get to our guests here in just a minute, but first we want to hit our thought for the day. Leadership. Leadership is like doing the wave at a sporting event. It starts with one person getting another person to do something, who then gets another person to do it, and eventually a whole stadium is doing what one person started. That is the same way in your business, your organization, or your team. Leadership, good or bad, is like the wave. One person talks to another person at the locker, at the water cooler, at lunch, and that gets something else going. So one person influencing another person who influences another person. So that is very important to know in your company, your organization, or your business. It's like the wave. That's leadership. One to one to one to one. It's not always that cool poster you put up. It's not always that email you send out. It's not always the marketing material, the website you have. It's one relationship, another relationship, one person influencing another person who influences another person. So with that thought in our mind, let's get to today's guest, Rustin Pierce. Rustin Pierce is the president of consulting for Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. He's a longtime athletic coach. He's also a longtime administrator at the high school level. So Rustin, welcome to the Talent and Strategy Show.
Thanks, Jamie. It's great to be here. We're excited.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being here. Now, why don't you give us a little 30,000-foot view of your career path and how you ended up with Affinity?
Sure. I've been in nonprofit administration for well over 20 years. I've done a lot of things in school world and church world, served on a few nonprofit boards. I have done about everything you can do in nonprofit world, from fundraising to project management to administration. And Rob Murphy is the founder of Affinity Recruiting. And about a year and a half ago, we had a conversation around getting into the consulting world, and it's just gone from there. And it's been an incredible blessing. We're working with groups all over the country, doing a wide range of things, from strategic planning to fundraising training to capital campaign management, to just general project management. And now we're actually offering outsourced human resources. And really the way it all kind of came about is we really saw a need in the nonprofit world that we really wanted to meet and help people organizationally behind the scenes. So a lot of what we do, executive search, a lot of what we do is all about helping organizations in their behind the scenes logistics, so that their forward-facing mission can move forward well.
Very cool. A lot there to unpack. You said something, HR, outsourced HR. For those of us that aren't familiar with that as much, and maybe the only HR that we know is when we go fill out forms or if we watch The Office on TV and we got Toby, the HR guy.
He's the worst.
What is outsourced HR?
So, and that actually extends into the for-profit world. We work on both sides for that. So essentially, when you walk into an organization, most organizations have someone doing human resources, taking care of the employees, taking care of payroll processing, taking care of benefits. But what typically happens is an organization will hire an HR director. The organization will continue to grow, and the HR director will become a glorified payroll processor. And the roles that they really should be doing in building culture behind the scenes and being a sounding board for employees, making sure employee retention is strong, those things fall by the wayside because the human resources department just processes payroll all week long. And so as a result, the organization suffers. But unfortunately, most executives just see the bottom line. And so long as the bottom line's okay, they don't realize the residual consequences that come from that human resources person not getting to do their job. So we come alongside and we help provide those back end logistical needs, either for an organization who can't afford a human resources department, or for the large organization who wants their HR professional to actually get to be an HR professional. We handle the behind the scenes things so that person can actually engage the organization and help it grow.
Well, this is the Talent and Strategy Show. You mentioned strategy, strategic planning, all that kind of stuff. What is the importance of the strategic planning or the consulting when Affinity, goes in, helps people with the consulting part or develops strategic plans? Tell us about the strategy part. Why is that so important with businesses?
Sure. I don't believe you can fully move forward without a plan. And a plan can't just be a bunch of wish list items and things that we might want to do down the road someday. You've got to map out the steps in that plan. I never cease to be amazed how many people will create a plan for their organization and don't tie it to a strategic financial plan. And so we always want to work with an organization on crafting, where do they want to go? How do they want to get there? What are the steps along the way that have to happen? Who has to be involved? And then parallel, how much is it going to cost? And how are we going to create that revenue? Whether it's through raising prices of things or whether it's through, restructuring the organization, or do we need to raise that funding? Helping them identify, how are we going to move forward well? What is it going to cost? And what are the steps to get there?
Well, from a training standpoint or a strategy standpoint, it's so important, like you said, to have a plan, but it's so important to get that extra set of eyes, that step away from the organization. Obviously, people within the organization can plan. They can come up with great strategies, but it's great to have that extra set of eyes, and I heard it once said, you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. Sometimes you just got to step back a little bit.
Yeah, we've all been around organizations like that. Some of us may be in them right now where we do something so habitually for so long that we just forget there might be a different way. I never cease to be amazed at how many organizations will do the same process for a long period of time, and maybe they outsource it and they never bid it. They never come back and bid that process again to see if maybe they're getting the best price, or is it the best way of doing it. They just keep doing it with the same way they've always done it because it's easy, it's comfortable. And they don't ask great questions. And sometimes they just don't even recognize that they need to ask the question. So that's definitely a part of the strategic planning process. Is we analyze every piece of what the organization's doing and say, is this the best way to do this? Is there a better way to do this? Is there a more cost-effective way to do this? Because at the end of the day, every organization is a business. And the bottom line needs to be positive.
Well, the Talent and Strategy Show, you're talking to us about the strategy, but the talent part, huge important. Who you bring in, getting the right people on the bus, so to speak, in the words of Jim Collins. And good, great. And I know you're a huge sports fan, long-suffering Tennessee Volunteers fan. This year, not so much. Not very much suffering going on this year with Tennessee, but we know, as sports fans, we hear all the time about search firms. We hear all the time about these big time coaches, these big time athletic directors being brought to a school based upon a search firm, or a search firm working with that. But they're search firms working with everyday companies, small, medium, and large. What does Affinity today, affinitytoday.com is the website, but what is Affinity Recruiting and Consulting? What do they do for the talent side?
Yeah. So Affinity was started as a recruiting firm. The recruiting side of our company is very strong. We work in a wide range of industries, and we try to do what we call our 3D process. We want to come in. The first thing we want to do is we want to discover the organizational culture. I've been a CEO. I've been the main guy in the room that everybody else is looking to, but I've also been the number 2 person. I've also been the number 3 person. So I kind of understand how all those people think and how their individual thought processes have to mesh in order for the organization to do well. So we want to discover what is the individual culture of that organization. How do they function? What is working for them? What's not? What are maybe some thought patterns that are missing in their leadership? Then we want to define where they want to go. We want to figure out what is it that they feel like they're missing, what is going to be the right person for that organization in that seat on the bus, to make sure we're looking for the right person. And then we want to deliver them a bunch of candidates that fit that role and fit what they're looking for. That can be a very difficult process sometimes. And a lot of organizations aren't equipped to do that process for themselves. They'll have a link on a job page on a random website or on their organizational website, and whatever resumes just happen to show up, that's our candidate pool. That's what we're going to roll with. Well, what do you do if nobody in that candidate pool shows up that fits your need, but you've got a fairly immediate need? That can be extremely detrimental for an organization. What happens if that candidate pool isn't going to be a great fit, but you feel like there's somebody there that maybe if we give them a shot, they could be a good fit? Well, if it works out, awesome, that's wonderful. But if it doesn't, you just, again, did something detrimental to the organization. So we come alongside and we help make sure that they're getting the right candidates for the right roles, for the strategy that they want to fulfill moving forward, so that they're not doing something that could end up being long-term detrimental, and they're actually getting people who can come in and fulfill their needs.
Awesome. So finding talent for companies, for organizations, it's not just for the big time colleges. It's not just for Tennessee and Alabama trying to find the next great Nick Saban or the next great football or basketball coach. All kinds of size companies can do that.
I tell you, I think one of the most missed things in organizations isn't hiring executives, it's hiring the second tier. Because executives have a 30,000 foot visionary perspective, and that's great. And you got to have that. But your second tier are typically your people who execute. And those are the people. You can have the greatest vision on the face of the earth. If you don't surround yourself with people who can execute it, it's irrelevant. So I think a lot of organizations overlook that, and they don't recognize the value of that second tier of leadership and how important they are to moving your organization forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. The boots on the ground leaders, or the supervisors, the
Yep.
managers, so to speak, or the assistants. John Maxwell calls it the 360 leader, a 360-degree leader, somebody who can impact, the main employees, but someone that can also impact the C-suite people that can have touch points with everybody around them. And you're right, because we look at it even at the Alabamas, the Tennessees, the Dukes of the world, the big time colleges. We look at it, all right, they hired this AD or they hired a coach, but oftentimes it's that assistant coach who doesn't come through the search firm, or it's that assistant or associate AD or that director of compliance that doesn't come through that search firm necessarily, or the traditional search firm, and those are the people that are boots on the ground. Those are the people that are rolling up their sleeves and actually being a 360 leader and dealing and working with everybody.
Right.
Well, we are going to get right back to you here in just a moment, Rustin. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about the leadershipplaybook.com. The leadershipplaybook.com. If you're a coach, you're an athletic director, obviously your culture is very important to you, and having good teammates, positive leadership in your program, well, it makes your job easier. And that's exactly what the leadershipplaybook.com helps you with. Your athletes, your student athletes, they can watch hundreds of 2-minute video lessons on their phones or tablets and gain valuable tips and insights that will help them maximize their leadership potential. And now you can get $100 off the price. That's right, a $100 discount when you use the coupon code SUCCESS. Use the coupon code SUCCESS, as in success is a choice, at theleadershipplaybook.com. So use coupon code SUCCESS at theleadershipplaybook.com. Have more positive leaders and better teammates, because great teams have great teammates. And so now let's go ahead and get back to our conversation with Rustin Pierce, the president of Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. So Rustin, you've talked a lot about recruiting, consulting with Affinity, but you have kind of a big announcement or some exciting news. And I guess it's not just you; it involves me, so I would have it as well. But I guess we'll let you kind of make the world known or the world know about this great breaking news, exciting announcement.
Absolutely. Well, before I get to that, I want to promote this. And Jamy did not ask me to do this, but this is his newest book. It's called The Coach's Bulletin Board. When I was in middle school, a long time ago, back when we actually still used pencils, I had a middle school basketball coach who used to give us every day of the week a winning move and attitude. And we would jot that down in our notebooks. And I kept that notebook forever. And I had, for that entire season, I had quote after quote after quote of just fantastic stuff. And at the time, as a middle school kid, I didn't really understand the full value of that. But I kept that thing forever. And Jamy just produced this book, and it is basically that. It is just a enormous compilation of really great quotes and useful practical quotes, things that transcend all leadership. And it's an invaluable thing to have. I still go back and use those quotes from those days all the time, and I will use this book constantly because I always need things like this. So I just want to give a free shout out for that. No paid, not a paid endorsement.
Appreciate that.
So our big announcement, and I'm really excited to get this out there publicly. Again, we believe in cultural organization. We believe in cultural strategy. We believe that if everything behind the scenes is good in an organization, then the forward-facing part is going to be successful. And there's a lot that goes into that. It is the talent you hire. It is the human resources processes that are in place. But then it's also the culture that's created within the organization. And so Affinity wants to be a one-stop shop to where if an organization needs anything along those lines, we can come in and provide it. We did not have the ability to do the culture piece. And so we were very excited when we had the opportunity to talk to Jamy about Jamy Bechler leadership and the Success is a Choice podcast. And we're excited to announce a new strategic partnership between Jamy Bechler Leadership and Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. Jamy's going to be working with us to help provide some of those internal executive coaching, culture groupings, different trainings that organizations need in order to build their internal culture. He's also going to be helping us expand our higher education market. We've been trying to work in the college athletic and higher education realm. And so he's going to be able to help us with that, especially with the search piece of that, but also with, executive coaching for athletic directors, executive coaching for conference commissioners, working with coaches on their team cultures. There's a lot of ways that this can be an extremely beneficial partnership. And we're excited to launch that and announce it today. And this podcast moving forward is going to be pretty much all about that. We're going to be bringing on different guests and talking about how we can engage people in a deeper way behind the scenes so that their organization can move forward well.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to be partnering with you guys, and I love your mission. I love what you're trying to do. And but like you said, there was a key component, and certainly not every business can do everything all at once. But there was a key component that we thought in talking would align perfectly with what you're trying to do already with the things you have in place, and that was the coaching up, the not necessarily the training, even though that's part of it, but just taking people from where they are to where they need, taking the talent. Maybe they've already used your search firm, or maybe they haven't, but they've brought in the right talent. Well, taking that right talent and making sure that they continue to progress, continue to be enriched, continue to be enhanced and empowered so that they can be the best that they're capable of being. Or maybe they didn't hire the right people. But once they go through some onboard training, once they go through some of that stuff, well, how can we help them to end up being the right fit? You might not start off as the right fit. Just like when I would take over a college, you take over a program, not every one of those players were your recruits, but they're your players now. And so what are you going to do to coach them up, to empower them, to help them be better? Because you can't just get rid of everybody. And most businesses don't want to do that. Most businesses have people they just want to be coached. They want to be helped. And, everybody has a coach. Everybody needs a coach in life. Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt, the fastest people in the water, the fastest people on the track, even they have coaches. And so you just look at that and yeah, I love the alignment. I love how Affinity is just wanting to offer something even more than they're already offering to clients or future clients with that.
So I'm curious, why were you attracted to this partnership?
Yeah, first of all, because I've known you for a long time. We've been friends for a long time. And when you told me that you were leaving the world of higher education and the big time dollars, the big time bucks that come with being a headmaster or a superintendent or an administrator at public education, and you were going to work for this organization, I wanted to know more. And the more we talked, I was like, man, that sounds awesome. That I love what they're doing. I love how what their mission is. I love the 3Ds. I love that they're just trying to help people be better. Obviously, you're a business. You want to make money, but that's not the sole focus. You're not totally a for-profit. Hey, win at all costs, make money at all costs. You're there to help people, and that was attractive. But I figured if it was good enough for you, then it's something I want to look at, and it's not something that I don't have to go back to having a day job. So I've been my own boss or my own employee for the last 5 years. It's not something I have to go back to an office, punch a clock, punch in, punch out.
How do those HR reviews go? Are you hard on yourself, or is it an easy review process? What does that look like?
Yeah, sometimes I have an absolute terrible boss. My boss is doesn't understand, is too hard. And then sometimes I have a lazy employee. Sometimes that employee just is not getting the job done. But yeah, those HR reviews can become a little bipolar or a little weird in a way. I start talking to myself, but yeah, it's not something. Partnering with you guys is right up my alley. That's right in the wheelhouse. Like, you're not asking me, or I'm not going to be going out and selling laptops door to door or vacuum cleaners door to door. This is not something that is foreign. This is aligned exactly with what Jamy Bechler leadership is doing, trying to help organizations, mainly sports teams, higher education, schools, trying to help them be better and maximize their potential. And this is a great opportunity to align with that and to continue to keep the same mission. I don't have to change locations. I don't have to move. I don't have to go back into an office. It's a great way to align what I've been trying to do in the last 5 years of building my business, continue to build my business, continue to work with sports teams. Nothing there will change. It's just now we're adding new opportunities. We're adding some awesome things and kind of pooling resources and pooling talent, pooling just ideas together. So it's pretty cool that way.
So when you talk about Jamy Bechler leadership, what's that going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, we still will continue to write books. Appreciate the shout out earlier. I didn't know you were going to do that. Yeah, the coach's bulletin board. It's essentially a paperback version of Google. If you Googled sports leadership quotes or how to motivate my team, that's pretty much what it is. I literally have already just this morning, I thumbed through my book to find some quotes as opposed to going to Google.
Right.
Now, yes, Google is faster.
Pages of them. You've removed the legwork.
Yes. Technically, Google will always be faster than my fingers flipping through a book. I understand that. But it's nice to have that little handy thing. They're separated into categories. So that's a great book for coaches and ADs to use to get quotes, to get insights, thoughts for their athletes. So I will continue to write books, continue to put out content that helps student athletes, helps coaches, helps ADs, continue to go speak, continue to work with the current clients I have, whether it's executive coaching, working with conference commissioners, working with ADs, working with coaches on a one-on-one basis. We'll continue to do all of that, but we're going to add a little bit more of a component of, hey, I'm working with Rustin as an AD at a certain school. You know, they like what I'm doing from a leadership standpoint, but maybe they have a need. All right, we need to fill this associate AD spot, or we need to fill this softball coach. And who better to help us with that? Hey, come alongside us, help us out with that, because you know our company, you know our organization, you know what would be a good fit. You know, help us increase that pool of the right fit so that we can continue to help out student athletes. The same way, you know, going into businesses, going into higher education, places that, you know, hey, we're hiring the right people, we feel like, but we just don't have time to coach them up. And we know they've got to be coached up. Coaching is taking someone from where they are to where they need to be. That's different than kind of the onboard training. It's different than, all right, we hire Rustin, and now what are we going to do with Rustin? All right, we got to give him the standard operating procedures. We got to tell him, you know, how to use his computer, where his logins are, what equipment and supplies he needs, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's what everyone should be doing, the baseline, but that's training. That's what you did. Training is something that you did. Coaching is something that you're doing. It's ongoing to enrich and enhance people and make them better. So we're already doing that with Jamy Bechler Leadership, but this will give us a greater opportunity, partnering with you, bringing what we can do best, and aligning ourselves with an infrastructure that you already have, and getting into more corporations as well, more businesses, and not just being in higher education, though definitely the vertical that you guys are going with of being involved in higher education, that fits my wheelhouse as well.
I think something you just said is really important. I don't want to miss that. And so I want to kind of repeat it. Too many times organizations, they have a role that they want to fulfill. And, you know, again, they're a business. And so they want to go a little more cost effective on that role. And so they might hire somebody who's at a lower salary amount, but they don't take into account, even if that person is the most go-getter, you know, high capacity young person that they could possibly hire, they still have to be coached and they've got to be taught. And a lot of organizations make the mistake of hiring somebody at that level and then just letting them run. And they may have had the best intentions about training that person, but when it came right down to it, they actually didn't. So I think there's a ton of value in what you just said, that, you know, there's a partnership here between hiring and teaching that every organization needs to be thinking about and engaging, especially in the job market we're in right now. It's hard to find people. And so, you know, sometimes you have to settle for somebody that's a little younger, maybe a little less experienced, and you better have a plan in place for how you're going to train that person, coach them up, get them to where they need to be, or it's going to hurt. And then now you've got retention issues. Now you're hurting the bottom line even more because you're having to rehire that job. There's a ton of value in what you just said.
Yeah, and the better you can make your team members, the more you can coach them up. Even the best team members, like I said, once again, you know, Michael Phelps, the Usain Bolts, the Michael Jordans, everybody, all top level people have coaches. Everybody at the highest level, or if they're serious about being at the highest level, they have coaches.
Yeah.
C-suite people, CEOs have coaches. It doesn't mean that that coach makes as much money as them. It doesn't mean that that coach has necessarily been at the highest level. Obviously, if Elon Musk has a business coach, well, that guy doesn't have more money than Elon Musk. Usain Bolt has a coach, but that coach isn't faster or has never been as fast as Usain Bolt. But that doesn't mean that they can't provide another set of eyes, provide some insights or a way of looking at things that maybe that person's not looking at. And so everybody listening to this, watching this, that's in a company, an organization, a team, you have team members with potential. How are you going to get that potential out of them? And just giving them standard operating procedures or telling them, all right, how to fill out the TPS reports, that doesn't necessarily take them from where they are to where they need to be. That's just the basic level. And so how are you coaching them up, as opposed to the way we do training most of the time, or the way most people do training is, all right, you just throw them in the deep end is one way. All right, well, they'll just learn on the fly. Hey, I hired you for a reason. You have all this potential. You can figure it out. So you throw them in the deep end, or you hit them with a water hose. It's like drinking from a water hose. You give them everything at once. They're so overwhelmed that they miss stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you do training in the absolute right way, you take it at a good pace, all that kind of stuff, still most people, when that training is done at the start, when they feel like, all right, Rustin knows what he needs to know. Yeah, he knows the knowledge. He has the knowledge. He has the skills, the information. But now it needs to be coaching. Now, how am I going to get that out of him? We all have knowledge, but how are we going to get that knowledge and information and translate that so that I'm actually being able to utilize that for the good of myself, the people around me, and my company, or our mission? And so that's where a lot of people miss the boat, and executives miss the boat too. You mentioned one-on-one executive coaching. Executives, they get to a high level because they're talented, but they also need individual coaching along the way. Hey, they sometimes just get focused on their tree and not the whole forest. They don't see the points of view or the perspectives they need to make their team members better. Just like I keep going back to Michael Phelps has a coach. Well, it's so that he can get every ounce of potential out of him to be the best he can be. And C-suite people, executives, head coaches, ADs, superintendents, it doesn't matter. If you're in charge, you still need someone breathing life into you or helping get all the potential you have out of you so it can benefit your organization and your team members.
Right. And every executive is talented. They didn't get to where they were otherwise, but they're not talented in every area. And that coaching helps them become more self-aware about the areas that they're not talented in, and how they're going to shore those up and surround themselves with people who, can play into their weaknesses and help make everybody stronger. That I think in a lot of organizations, that's the absolute hardest thing for executives to come to grips with. It's easy to say, I'm very self-aware. I know I'm not good in this area over here, but it's a whole nother thing to hire somebody who fits that role and then release them to shore up your weakness. And I think that's where an executive coach comes along and is able to walk them through that and help them release that area of their life to somebody else so that they can be more successful. Most executives, it's a very hard thing to release things to other people and take their hands off.
Well, and it's hard to, if you're a C-suite, or if you're the CEO, the COO, or you're the superintendent, the headmaster at a school, it's very limited who you can confide in at that organization or in that institution or that business. Because everybody essentially is your subordinate.
Right.
And so it can be dangerous, or you can just feel uncomfortable with that, or it can be maybe too much transparency. It can present vulnerabilities for you. And so a lot of executives or people that are quote unquote in charge, they never find somebody that they can talk to or banter with, or, bounce ideas off, because the people that they're surrounding themselves all the time are their subordinates. And so having a coach or a mentor or just anyone outside your organization is good from that perspective as well.
And that's a really lonely place to be when you don't have that person. I've been in that place a couple of times in my life, and that's, you have to have that person.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to it. It should be fun because it's what do they say? If you find something you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. That didn't make my quote book, or else I would know it exactly. So
that is not the quote, but it's close.
but you get the gist of it. But so it's great to be partnering with somebody that kind of aligns with the vision and where I don't have to go outside of my lane. I don't have to do things that are necessarily not in my wheelhouse. So that's fun. That makes life worth living a little bit.
Yeah. I'm excited for next week. I'll be a spoiler. Next week's episode is going to be all about startups. And I'm going to interview Jamy and I'm going to interview Rob Murphy, the founder of Affinity, who have both actually built things from nothing. So startups are everywhere around us. They're exploding all over the country. Some are highly successful. Some are not successful at all. So we're going to talk to Jamy and Rob about what makes a successful startup and what are the kind of the pitfalls to watch out for.
Absolutely. Look forward to that. Any parting thoughts, any parting words of wisdom for the whole world out there?
Not really. Nothing other than I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to bring a ton of value in areas that people in every organization deal with every day. And so I would just encourage people to keep listening. I think we're going to bring a lot of value in areas that directly affect your organization or possibly even your individual job.
Awesome. Well, we are going to get you guys out on kind of a quote. We talked about quotes. I love quotes. So we're going to get you out on a quote that is similar to what I talked about with the wave at the start, the thought that leadership is like a wave, one person influencing another who influences another. Yes, you see the C-suite or the CEOs or the head coaches say something and then everybody follows suits. But most people aren't like that. Most people don't have that kind of power or platform. Most people are just individuals. And so I love this quote from Mother Teresa. It says, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waves to create many ripples." So appreciate Rustin being on the show. Great insights. Look forward to this, both the partnership with Jamy Bechler Leadership and the partnership with Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. Also, very happy that they've made this show possible as well on the Success is a Choice podcasting network. And next week, we will be back here, same bat time, same bat channel, Friday, October 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So Rustin, thanks so much for joining us. Everybody, appreciate you guys joining us. And until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?